What's up everyone and welcome back to a new video. In this video we're going to talk about the ending of Resident Evil Village and the future of the series as a whole. So if you haven't finished or played it yet, why are you watching this video? Go play it right now because this video will contain heavy spoilers. First off, Resident Evil Village is of course actually Resident Evil 8 and story-wise a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7 Biohazard from 2017. The events of Resident Evil Village actually make more sense in the context of the events that happened in Resident Evil 7, but it also carves out a path for a follow-up title. In this case, Resident Evil 9, that allegedly and highly probably Capcom is already working on. Back in April there already was a rumor from Aesthetic Gamer aka Dusk Golem, who stated that Resident Evil 8 would directly continue the events of Resident Evil 7. But also that both of these are part of a trilogy with interconnected elements. So this means we're getting a conclusion to our story in the next mainline Resident Evil game. But before we discuss what will take place in the next chapter, let's first explain one of the pillars of this alleged trilogy, or better said, the driving force behind Ethan Winters' misadventures. This is of course the Megamycete mold. This fungus stems back centuries and is the original source of the Mutamycete mold. It also gives those who are infected special powers, such as regenerative abilities that battle aging and illness, and even the power to rearrange their own cells. And that brings us to baby Rose, who was kidnapped in Resident Evil Village but can be seen as a teenager in the post-credit scene of that game. She has the mold inside of her, because she is the child of Mia and Ethan, both of whom have been infected with the mold that never really left their bodies. This is also the reason that Ethan was able to pull through all this suffering and punishment in Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. You know, such as reattaching your hand several times.
Like I'd let you get away.
And Rose, she's very much the same. By the way, it is important to know that the Megamycete mold breaks down and absorbs the consciousness of anyone who is infected with the mold. This explains why Rose says that she knows she is like her father in the post-credit scene.
You're a lot like him, you know?
I know.
As she likely has some memory of Ethan, although she couldn't have possibly known him. That also explains why Rose is irritated when the secret agent calls her Evelyn.
We have a situation. You're needed, Evelyn.
Don't you ever call me that again.
Whoa, it's just a joke, Rose.
As Rose quite possibly carries the powers and memories of Evelyn inside her. Evelyn was the mold bioweapon that infected the Baker family in Resident Evil 7. And because Ethan has a vision of her in Resident Evil Village, it looks like she still continues to live on inside the mold. And thus also in Rose. This time skip after Resident Evil Village pretty much suggests that Rose is alive and working with Chris and some type of secret organization. Possibly the Hound Wolf Squad or the BSAA, and is being used to fight against bioweapons and other mutants. She mentions her tests, followed quickly by an agent showing up, at which point she mutters, "Speak of the devil." So she probably isn't talking about school tests, but rather that she's training for this organization.
Sorry I missed last week. I have a lot of tests coming up. You know how it is. Goddamn devil.
It appears that this organization also tries to keep her in check as the secret agent calls off a sniper that is watching her.
I can show you things even Chris doesn't know I can do.
We have a clear shot.
Stand down. I can handle it. She's just a kid.
Therefore, Rose apparently has very potent mold powers, which of course was the reason why she was kidnapped by Mother Miranda in the first place in Resident Evil Village. Now this time skip is certainly interesting, because as the SUV drives off, a figure can be spotted walking at the side of the road. Using some clever mod tools, we can detach the camera from the fixed perspective and discover that it is actually Ethan himself. Remember that although Ethan sacrificed himself at the end of Resident Evil Village, His death is never 100% confirmed, and he surely has survived some unbearable suffering before. It could also be a vision of Rose, as the mold probably carries the consciousness of Ethan inside and explains also why Rose says she knows she's like Ethan. If Rose is working with Chris, it could very well have something to do with the BSAA. However, at the ending of Resident Evil 8, it is revealed that they themselves are using bioweapons as soldiers now.
BSAA didn't send soldiers. This is a bioweapon.
What the hell were they thinking?
There's even some unlockable content art in Resident Evil Village that has the following description. The BSAA are now a rotten and ruined organization who are using soldiers created with new technology. This very much is a perfect setup for a sequel, where we could see Rose working with Chris teaming up against the BSAA. In a big Capcom hack from November 2020, leaked files showed a title in development called Resident Evil Apocalypse, which is the codename for Resident Evil 9. This title sort of implies the stakes will be even higher. So will we leave Rose in the future for now and fight with Chris's Hound Wolf squad against the BSAA? Or will we see Rose take on other bioweapons with Chris? The ending of Resident Evil Village does really lean towards this though, especially if we take these words by heart. The father's story is now done. Of course, meaning Ethan's adventures are over and it's time for Rose's story to begin. According to this leak, Capcom at that time was aiming to release Biohazard Apocalypse in Q3 of 2023. Of course, this is an older leak and based on even older information, and with such big titles, a fixed release date is never certain. However, we cannot wait to follow up with Chris and Rose in the next installment.
Orders, Captain.
Pick up the rest of the squad. Plot a course for BSAA Europe HQ. Someone's gotta pay.
And with that said, we've come to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm really curious to hear from you in the comments how you would like this story to continue. And for all things Resident Evil and other games, subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time.